When Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, the justification came out almost immediately. She was a domestic terrorist who tried to use her vehicle as a weapon, and therefore she deserved the killing. This is the exact same script that we see in other human rights abuses across the world, notably in Gaza from the IDF. And the reason why that script is used is not just because it's a coincidence, it's because the IDF is training ICE agents to commit domestic terror here in the United States. Just to recap, federal agents shot and killed Renee Good in Minneapolis as she was attending demonstrations to delay the process of ICE going door to door, ripping people from their homes. Not only was she shot and killed on the scene from somebody whose life was not in danger, they also delayed ambulances to the area while they continued to secure it from other protesters. And federal officials quickly spun the narrative to ensure that her killing seemed justified. Christy No called her a domestic terrorist before there was an investigation that took place, and state officials were blocked from viewing any of the investigation that was compiled by the federal government. So not only are we seeing federal agents shoot and kill people, but then they are the ones to control the narrative, do all of the internal investigations, and justify why they are able to do that. This is a pattern that we see anytime there's militaristic forces that are controlling civilian populations, and common phrases that are utilized are weaponized vehicle, self defense, neutralized threat. Now, these connections are not just observable through the human eye, these are well documented, very explicit similarities. We know for a fact that US law enforcement agencies are training with Israeli military and police forces, and a lot of the tactics that are emphasized are crowd suppression, urban population control, counterterrorism framing, and even preemptive use of force logic. This article from Amnesty International shows that Baltimore law enforcement officials, along with hundreds of others from Florida, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Arizona, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Georgia, Washington State, as well as DC Capitol Police, have all traveled to Israel for training. Thousands of others have received training from Israeli officials here in the US. Many of these trips are taxpayer funded, while others are privately funded. Since 2002, the Anti Defamation League, the American Jewish Committee's Project Interchange, and the Jewish Institute for National Security Affairs have paid for police chiefs, assistant chiefs, and captains to train in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories. These trainings put Baltimore police and other U.S. law enforcement employees in the hands of the military, security, and police systems that have racked up documented human rights violations for years. Amnesty International, other human rights organizations, and even the U.S. Department of State have cited Israeli police for carrying out extrajudicial executions and other unlawful killings, using ill treatment and torture, even against children, suppression of freedom of expression association, including through government surveillance, and excessive use of force against peaceful protesters. There's a reason why most of these trips to Israel started in 2002, and that is because immediately after 9/11 and our war on terror, Israel was deemed the expert on counterterrorism measures. And that is because of their continued use of labeling any enemy of the state as a terrorist. They are developing explicit expertise in occupation strategies that they are then exporting to other law enforcement agencies across the world, notably in the United States with immigration, customs, and enforcement. We have heard this exact same testimony from US Army veterans like Anthony Aguilar, who talks explicitly about this connection.
I have been to Israel where ICE agents and DEA agents and other three-letter agencies train with the Israelis, and they bring those tactics back here.
No justice! No justice!
Renee Good. Families are suffering every day. The oppression that we export, we bring it right back here. Look around. We are the ones suffering. Children in Gaza are suffering. Fathers, mothers, families are suffering. We bomb boats off the coast of Venezuela. We blow up Colombians in fishing boats and say, oops. If you don't think that won't come to your neighborhood, think again.
Anthony brings up a lot of important insights in this clip. If you continue to see human rights abuses committed by the federal government unapologetically, who's to say that they're not going to do that in your same community? The most explicit connection between the IDF and ICE is their use of video surveillance programs like Palantir This is all the same database. And in the United States, it is used to track, obtain, and deport immigrants. And Israeli forces use it to generate data and targeting on those in Gaza and the West Bank. And most of this architecture is used for data collection, risk scoring, predictive classification, and even pre justified force against those that are deemed to be the most likely to commit crime. This is like the most Black Mirror shit that we've seen. And it's happening in front of our face openly. Not a lot of people are talking about it. For the United States and Israel, a known occupier and genocide enabler, to use video surveillance and facial recognition software to create a database of people who could potentially be criminals, what are we doing here? The mantra of our justice system is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And now we are compiling your face everywhere you go to put you on a meter of how at risk you are to commit a crime eventually. This could be from social media ads that you post. This could be from leftist organizing that you do with your union or at various protests. This is all dystopian shit. And everybody should be equally as terrified regardless of what circles or what political affiliation you have. The accountability narrative is also shared by both regimes. I mean, every single person that becomes an enemy of the state is labeled as a terrorist. And the purpose of that is to remove any possibility that that person could be innocent. If you want a fair trial for someone who's called a domestic terrorist by the federal government, either in Israel or America, you're siding with the terrorists. You think terrorists, we can't negotiate with them. Are you kidding me? They have clearly bad intentions, even though the only reason they're labeled a terrorist is from the people who perpetrate the violence. The Israeli government acts without any accountability, without any oversight. The only people that they are beholden to is the United States because of our military guarantees for them. In the United States, for ICE agents, this looks like qualified immunity. This looks like federal self investigations and the Department of Justice shielding agents from local oversight or any state investigators. In Israel, this looks like internal military investigations. Sounds a little similar. Routine case closures, where cases are immediately closed without getting the truth out to the people, or near total impunity. Who cares about the International Court of Justice? Who cares about the UN? Who cares about every other nation that continues to say that Israel is acting genocidally? All they care about is the United States enabling their behavior. And with Donald Trump, we're seeing that continue to happen. Palestine is not just a foreign policy issue. It is a clear cut example and a warning of what could happen here in the United States. Tactics that are tested on Palestinians do not stay contained. Those same tactics are exported to the United States through this training, through the technology that we share, and through the same ideology. This ideological framework allows marginalized communities to be testing grounds for what the state is able to get away with. And Minneapolis is not Gaza, but the playbook is exactly the same. This excerpt from the Palestine Chronicle really highlights the most important part of the story. Not only are the violent tactics used by the illegal occupying military committing genocide in Gaza exported to the US cities through the likes of ICE, but there's also a demonstrable ideological connection between ICE and the Israeli military. In addition to this, the exact same military industrial surveillance complex runs through both. ISIS tactics don't just look Israeli. In many cases, they actually may be directly from the Israeli occupation forces. Even more concerning is the Zionist groups in the United States have been able to use them to target their political enemies inside the country, despite this resulting in clear violations of the First Amendment. So these ideologies look almost identical. In Israel, Palestinians are immediately labeled as potential terrorists. They have to be monitored, they have to be occupied because we cannot trust them to have self autonomy. In the United States, immigrants pose a clear violent threat, despite every metric and every study showing that immigrants have less violence per capita than natural born citizens. Still, we have to be in fear of the migrants that come here. And therefore, they need to be physically removed from any community that they have become a part of, to any workplace where they have helped establish, anywhere that they have community roots within the United States. None of that is worth having them here. We should actually just remove them entirely because they pose a violent threat to the fascists in power who want to demonize and scapegoat them. Do we not see the similarities here? This is why violence is justified. This is why physical force is emphasized in regimes that want to show control and how powerful their boot is. These clips that were compiled from Al Jazeera make it abundantly clear we need to continue to see protests and national demonstrations because these atrocities that we're seeing in Gaza don't happen in isolation. They happen through our military funding. The United States continues to enable the IDF to commit these atrocities. And then we are confused when we see those exact same tactics utilized in marginalized communities domestically. This we didn't just wing it. We're not improvising the terror that we commit on communities with ICE agents who are hired with 47 days of training. No, they are taught exactly what to do. We have methodological systems in place that we have learned from Israel's experience committing atrocities abroad. How many times will we continue to hear the same justification? Just because something is said in different languages does not mean that the playbook isn't identical. When the state commits violence on marginalized groups and then justifies their death by saying that the victim is actually responsible for their own killing, you're utilizing occupation tactics. And if we don't stand up for the rights that are continuously being brutalized by the state, we are setting up our own rights to also be at risk.